Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. Let's get straight into this one. Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. The fight that I guess nobody wanted to see because they were expecting to see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. So the alternative we have now is Joshua versus Usyk. Still a very good fight, still a very interesting fight. So for those of you who are not so new to the channel, they would know that there's a lot of history with Alexander Usyk and this particular channel via James Bashir, the experienced, well-known boxing trainer who used to train Alexander Usyk, amongst many other fighters as well. It was his fighter that he took to the WBO Cruiserweight Championship of the world, and probably his best performance was winning that WBO championship in the way he was so skillful, used his feet, moved around the ring so gracefully. People said it was almost shades of Ali the way he was moving around the ring that night. So you've heard it all before from me in terms of Alexander Usyk. He was, since Bashir left, or he left James Bashir, from that point onwards, it seemed to me that Alexander Usyk's style of hit and not getting hit, gradually, fight after fight after fight, he became a fighter that was more hittable as the fights have gone and as he's moved up in quality and the fighters have gotten better. Alexander Usyk has been getting hit more and more. And since he moves up to the heavyweight division, he has looked pretty ordinary. Now, there are people who have been good as a cruiserweight, but have moved up to heavyweight, but haven't really succeeded in the same way or had the same success. David Haye was brilliant as a cruiserweight champion, but as a heavyweight, he wasn't quite the same fighter as he was as a cruiserweight, simply because the guys are much bigger, much stronger, able to withstand his punching power, and as in Vladimir Klitschko's case, had the skill set to use a long jab, was taller, longer, and able to keep David at arm's length for the majority of the fight. See, when I think about Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua, how this fight could possibly turn out, it reminds me of a fight similar to when Lennox Lewis fought Zelko Mavrovic. Zelko Mavrovic, the Croatian, wasn't given a hope in hell, but he was unbeaten. He was beating guys up in the heavyweight division. He was a real danger man in the heavyweight division, and Lennox didn't realize how dangerous Zelko Mavrovic was. Lennox thought he was the bigger guy, which he was, the bigger, stronger, taller guy. He had all the physical advantages. He thought just they could jump. I think Zelko Mavrovic was about 15 and a half stone, 15 and a half stone, no more than that, and about 6'3", maybe 6'4". And Maverick, quick on his feet, good fast hands, but he hadn't fought anyone like Lennox Lewis, and Lennox thought he'd just walk in there and blast him out of there. Fortunately for Lennox Lewis, that night, he realised Zelko Maverick had a great chin, could punch a bit, had a great work rate, and just kept coming and coming. And Lennox had to work in that fight. At one point, Zelko Maverick backed Lennox Lewis up, put him against the ropes, and threw a nice combination, kept Lennox on the ropes. And then Lennox had to come off the ropes and fight back. Zelko Maverick lost the fight because Lennox was physically bigger, stronger, and able to dominate the fight. But Maverick had his moments. And when a big guy like that is having to exchange and throw so many punches at such a hectic pace, then what the problem can be here is that that big guy can get exhausted because he's thrown so many punches, and you exhaust yourself early because you're trying to take the guy out of there thinking, I'm a big guy, I'm just going to jump on this guy, I'm going to maul him, I'm not going to live and get him the opportunity to get into any sort of rhythm, I'm just going to jump on him, maul him, and just not give him a chance to get into any sort of get any confidence in the fight. Hurt him early, show him I'm the big man, and I'll close the show. Or hopefully I'll close the show. Lennox was banking he'd close the show early. He went 12 rounds. It's a unanimous point decision. And that's the sort of fight I'm expecting to see from Anthony Joshua. I think he would have seen all he needed to see with the Chisora fight. And that Chisora fight with Usyk was mighty close. That fight was pretty close. So for me, this is a very, very interesting fight for Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua. Usyk still, to me, doesn't know what weight he needs to come in as a heavyweight. Yeah, he doesn't need to have an idea whether he's going to come in 15 and a half stone, 16 stone, or not. He doesn't know what his ideal weight is yet. And there's still question marks, Usyk, whether he can actually really be in there with a really big, powerful guy. I mean, Chisora is one sort of power. Getting hit by Derek Chisora is one thing, but getting hit by someone like Anthony Joshua is a totally different kettle of fish, who hasn't got that losing mentality, who is a winner, who is a world champion, who also has been Olympian himself, and is, you could say, getting better as a fighter. And Anthony Joshua isn't as stiff as he once was when he pre-Andy Ruiz, the first fight. So he's showing he can get on the back foot, he's showing he can box, get up on his toes and use the jab. He's shown those things. In this fight, I think he's going to have to revert to Anthony Joshua, seek and destroy. That, for me, is going to be the best way. Trap Usyk on the ropes, don't let him get him off the ropes, corner him as quick as possible, back him up with a jab, get him to the ropes, keep his back against the ropes, and keep whacking to body and whacking to head. If Chisora almost put his lights out in the first or second round, he said that Chisora hit him with a right hand and it all went black in front of him. If that's the case, if Derek Chisora hit him like that, God only knows what happens when Anthony Joshua hits him. Because when Joshua hits him, he's going to understand a whole new world. There's a song called A Whole New World, and that's the song that I think Alexander Usyk is going to be understanding when he gets in there against a genuine world-class heavyweight that is looking to take his head off. That pitter-patter stuff that he's done, a cruiserweight and a heavyweight, that's fine against Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora and whoever else, but you can't do that against Anthony. I don't think you can do it against Anthony Joshua. The only way I can see Usyk winning this fight is if A, Anthony Joshua allows him to get into rhythm, B, Anthony Joshua walks onto one, and C, Usyk's footwork is so good, he keeps Joshua turning and making miss all night long. Well, the thing is, Usyk wasn't able to do it against Chisora for too long. Chaz Witherspoon, as slow as he was, as slow as a snail almost, was able to tag Usyk. Usyk's not the most elusive target, and he's not getting better. Usyk's not getting better. Anybody who sits there and tells me Alexander Usyk's getting better, they can forget it. And anybody who tells me, well, when he fights for a world title, he'll fight that. That's garbage. Like, don't believe that for 1 second. I think Usyk has hit his limits for me. And this talk about Usyk's a dangerous fighter and stuff. What are you basing it on? The only thing you're basing Usyk being a dangerous fighter on, you're basing it based on maybe what he did as a cruiserweight. But there's nothing in his heavyweight resume to say, yeah, man, this guy's a killer. You name me one fight you look at and you think, yeah, he's a killer at the heavyweight division. Then when you look at someone like Deontay Wilder knocking guys out and seeing them shaking on the canvas, that's what you call a danger man. Alexander Usyk is not a danger man, all right? You may have some cute moves, and he may have done some things in the cruiserweight division, but I've seen enough of Alexander Usyk now to know he's nothing special. And I look to be proven wrong. He's nothing special. A lot of the stuff is what he did as an amateur. all those years ago against Joe Joyce, and we did as a cruiserweight. But as a heavyweight, he's bang average. Bang average. Because here's my argument. If you are a killer and you're such a great fighter, you shouldn't be letting 9 losses, Derek Chisora, take you to the limit. You really shouldn't. I don't care um, how much heart Derek Chisora's got, how much guts he's got. And yes, he's an improving fighter. I'm not knocking that. But not if you're that man. Not if you're the man they say you are. And I think a lot of what people say is what they hope will happen as opposed to what will happen. And the thing is this, Usyk won't get better because he's got no one qualified in his camp to make him better. Who's training him? Who's training him to get him out of his bad habits and to get him to improve? So, could Joshua blast Usyk out of there? Quite possibly. But I think Usyk will fiddle his way around until Joshua hits him something big. And then when Joshua hits him something big, then we'll see. Then we'll see whether he's ready for their real heavyweight division. We'll see then. Because the Usyk that I expected to see in the heavyweight division is nothing like it. Because a fight against Anthony Joshua, he needs his footwork. His footwork needs to be spot on. He needs to be giving Joshua angles. He mustn't allow Joshua to set his feet to throw punches. If you allow Joshua to set his feet and throw punches, you're getting knocked out. Your 15-stone self, you're getting knocked out. You will see a whole new world. Do you understand? And you'll be dancing, not voluntary, Mr. Usyk. It will be involuntary. That is what will happen. You see, now, Joshua's team could overestimate or not get their weights right, because if he just comes in bulky, really big, like we've seen Joshua get really big in his fights, then that lactic acid gets in down the stretch. He starts blowing a bit. We have the old Takam situation, and I don't think they want to see that. So, I think they were trying to swerve. Hearn was trying to swerve Usyk, talking nonsense about, we'll fight Fury after Usyk, and you deal with Usyk first. Like I said, for Usyk, he's got to keep Joshua moving, make the bigger man, waste energy, missing with punches. Even if it's an inch, even if it's just an inch of making Joshua miss, make him miss. When you miss him, make him pay. Joshua's better, believe it or not, he's better actually when he's boxing. It's when Joshua decides to get involved in a tear-up or he decides to go for a fighter, that's where he seems to leave himself exposed. That's how I knew about the RUIZ fight, Andy Ruiz fight. Now, there's been other talk about maybe Dillian White stepping in to fight Anthony Joshua. Why? And there's been other talk about Andy Ruiz fighting Anthony Joshua. Why? A lot of people were talking about Ruiz and his weight loss. And I said to myself, well, you've lost all that weight. That weight was holding you up. Now let's see what happens when you lose that weight. And what do you see? As soon as he loses the weight, he gets dropped by Chris Arreola. And if Chris Arreola is dropping you, don't even talk about what Deontay Wilder will do to you, boy. Don't. So that's what happens when you're that big like Andy Ruiz and you lose all that weight in a short space of time. I think you lose that weight, and that's a lot of weight. You lose water on the brain, and so you're vulnerable to getting hit like that and going down like that. You don't normally see Andy Ruiz go down like that. He's pretty solid, but that's what's happened. So we'll see. That's what people are saying here. Make or break for Usyk. You think Usyk will put wait for AJ? Let's see here. It is make or break for Alexander Usyk. I just don't see what he's got to offer Anthony Joshua that is so dangerous. I will say one thing. He did catch Derek Chisora in about the 7th or the 8th round with a good straight left hand and it did catch Derek Chisoro's attention and it did hurt him. So that is something I'm aware of, and I looked at. I thought, okay, so he's got enough power to catch the attention of Derek Chisora, but for the most part, Chisora was able to deal with that punching power of Usyk. Will he put weight on for AJ? Well, he would be. It would be. Well, you see, this takes me to another fight. Evander Holyfield against Riddick Bowe, the first fight. I think Evander came in, I think maybe 14 stone 12. Don't quote me on it, but it might be 14 stone 12. He came in against just under 15 stone against Riddick Bowe, who was 17, about 17 and a half stone. And Bowe could fight well on the inside. He could fight well on the outside. He had a beautiful jab. For that fight, Holyfield was just underweight. In the rematch, he fought Riddick Bowe. And if you watch the first fight, I mean, they traded blows, right? But you could tell in the second fight when they fought, Holyfield had more meat on his punches and he put more weight on. And that helped Evander Holyfield in that second fight against Riddick Bowe. When he hurt Bowe, significantly hurt Bowe a lot in that fight. And I remember I felt that Holyfield would have stopped Bowe in that fight had it not been for the, what's the guy? The parachute guy. If you've never seen it before, check out Holyfield versus Bowe 2. And it's probably the most ridiculous thing I've seen in world boxing. Absolutely ridiculous. I think that was the night that Holyfield had knocked Bowe out. And that guy who parachuted in saved Bowe that night. Because he was on the way to get knocked out. Thoughts on Joshua's stamina? It depends how the pace is fought. If Joshua can set the pace by doubling up the jab and keeping Usyk on the back foot, then that's not going to be such a stamina issue. It's not going to be such a point. It's only a problem if Usyk is allowed to start moving and dancing around the ring, and or Joshua start catching him, starts missing punches. That's when there's going to be a Joshua stamina problem. Stamina is never an issue when you're setting the pace and you're in control of the fight. Stamina is the issue when you're chasing a fight or you're having to do things out of your comfort zone. That's when stamina becomes an issue. Can Usyk use enough footwork, enough guile to not get hit by Joshua, land his own punches, and get out that fight unscathed? I don't think so. He's going to get hit something big, and he'll probably get hit something big early. So that will determine how long Alexander Usyk lasts in the fight. Why doesn't anyone mention Luis Ortiz? Because he's like 48 years old. He's been knocked out twice by Deontay Wilder. And I never thought Luis Ortiz was great in the first place. If you can tell me one guy that Luis Ortiz beat that was legit in the heavyweight division, legit, then we'll talk about it. And don't say Bryant Jennings. He just come off a loss off of Vladimir Klitschko. And even then, there were question marks because Luis Ortiz didn't even get tested that night when he fought Bryant Jennings. If you don't believe me, check the interview I did that with Bryant Jennings. Usyk is accurate. I think he might hit Joshua from angles he's not comfortable with. Yeah, that's all well and good. All them angles are nice. But there's one angle that Joshua's going to hit Usyk with. It's the right hand on the chin. That right hand on the chin will make Usyk do angles with his legs he's never done before. I'm telling you now, when that right hand hits Usyk on his chin, he won't know if he's doing a left angle or right angle, 360, 180. He won't know. It's going to hit so hard. I'm telling you, he won't know where he is. So, like I said, it'll be a whole new world for Alexander Usyk when Joshua hits him. I'm telling you, I'm not a huge anti-Joshua fan, but in this fight, did you see how when he hit Kubrat Pulev, he hit Kubrat Pulev so hard, Kubrat Pulev wanted to run outside the ring. That's the sort of power he's going to hit. That's the sort of power he's going to be hitting Alexander Usyk with. If Derek Chisora can catch him, if Chaz Witherspoon can catch him, you can be damn sure that Anthony Joshua will catch him. And that's the problem Usyk has. And he's not improving. He's regressing. They all can. There you go. What's pros and cons do you consider for Usyk? I think I mentioned them earlier. The pros and cons. Uh, there are more cons than pros with Alexander Usyk for the simple fact that he's going to jump from fighting. Sorry, he's going to jump from fighting Derek Chisora to Anthony Joshua. There's no in between. You should have fought Carlos Takam. Would have learned a bit more about Alexander Usyk. The second thing is, it's the guys he's been getting hit with. He's being hit by guys he shouldn't be getting hit by because they're not the level that Anthony Joshua is. None of those guys are as good as Anthony Joshua. Okay, I'm not blowing smoke up Joshua's ass. I'm just telling you for what he is. The pros, Usyk's undefeated. He's found a way to win through his career so far. Yes, he does fight at angles. He does throw punches at weird angles. But he's slowing up. He's not the same. He's trying to do this. He's trying to fight like cruiserweight at heavyweight. And he hasn't made those adjustments at heavyweight. And this is the problem. And the people training Alexander, but it is broke. It's just not. There's a crack in the glass. And what Anthony Joshua's going to do is actually bring his hammer and let you shatter the glass. That's what's going to happen now. I just don't see what people are seeing in Alexander Usyk. I just don't. I don't. If you could show me one fight where you could say to me, yeah, that fight right there, see that? That's what I believe is going to be Alexander Usyk. I mean, it's going to be Anthony Joshua. I don't see it. I could see Usyk getting blasted out of there. I could see Alexander getting beaten up. Look, I had Alexander Usyk getting stopped by Joe Joyce. That's how I saw it. Because I just didn't see how, first, Usyk was going to keep Joyce off him. And secondly, when Joyce started hitting him, when the punches started flying from Joyce, and he's got such a high work rate, where Usyk was going to hide. Where was he going to hide? And Usyk's not got the greatest stamina in the world. They were saying, Usyk's got great stamina. I didn't see great stamina against Derek Chisora. So, this isn't a rundown Alexander Usyk now. This is just telling you, which other channels won't tell you, a little bit more of the truth. I've been watching Usyk for a long time. I've been up close and personal with his trainer. Ex-trainer. A number of times watching Usyk go through the ranks. He's just not the fighter he was at cruiserweight. He's not as evasive. He's not as defensively sound. He doesn't hit. He hasn't got the same sort of punching power. Just not as effective. That's what it is. What game plan would you tell Usyk if you were his head coach? Talk to Evander Holyfield. Get a ballet coach in. Get your footwork. Because your footwork is the key to beating Anthony Joshua. I don't care what you're doing, this part of your body, up here. I don't care what you do up here. It's what you do down your footwork. Because if you can make Joshua miss and make him pay, that's a positive. If you can make Joshua exhaust himself throwing punches and him not be able to hit you, but you're able to hit him, that is a positive. If you can frustrate Anthony Joshua and make him make mistakes and counter those mistakes, that's a positive. But for you to be able to do all those things, the foundation is in your footwork. And you've got to be more evasive. You're going to need a big ring. And is the champion going to allow you to get a big ring for you to run around the ring all night long? No. And you like to stand in the pocket too long now and exchange with someone like Anthony Joshua. Can you get in and get out without getting nailed with something? That's the big question mark. And what weight are you coming in at? Are you going to come at 15 stone, 15 and a half stone? Or are you going to put an extra stone on? If you put an extra stone on, is that going to make you slower? That means that you were unable to get out of the way of big bombs later on in a fight, or you're going to use the weight that you think that you're going to be able to, absorb punches, or use the weight to, maybe wrestle with Joshua. I don't know what the game plan is, and who in that corner is going to be able to come up with such a brilliant game plan Because if they could come up with a brilliant game plan, they would have came up with a game plan against Derek Chisora, and they didn't. And that's what I'm talking about. Dwight just got KO'd by a 41-year-old. Joshua's biggest win is over 40-year-old, got KO'd twice. And Alexander's best win at heavyweight is, can you tell me? A guy that lost 10 fights. A guy that got knocked out by Dillian White, who got knocked out by Alexander Vetkin, who got knocked out by Anthony Joshua, who got knocked out by Andy Ruiz. Okay, so AJ won't bring pressure like Chisora did. That will leave more chance for Usyk. Stars make fights. Yeah, sure. But here's this. Derek Chisora is not as gifted and talented as Anthony Joshua. Derek Chisora doesn't jab the way that Anthony Joshua jabs. Derek Chisora doesn't punch as hard. Derek Chisora isn't as two different fighters. Joshua will talk about distance and timing. Joshua will give you the trigger, the pull back and throw the right hand. Joshua is different. He can adapt his game. Derek Chisora just comes in a straight line. And to be honest, if you look at Alexander Usyk, he doesn't adapt his game. He boxes the same way for every single fight. So you know what you get with Alexander Usyk. You know he's going to try and pickpocket and try and move around the ring. You know he's going to do that. You know he's going to do that. So you know he's going to do that. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't see much hope for Alexander Usyk in this fight. I just don't. And the injuries as well. Nah, I think you could get rolled over in this fight. I really do. I really can see Joshua putting his fist right through Usyk. Just don't think it, unless he makes significant changes in his team and significant changes in the way he approaches this fight. If he approaches this fight like he approached the Shaw fight, he's going to get absolutely smashed. How can you, as an experienced pro fighter, be walking to the ring the night of the fight and not knowing the size of the ring? What kind of a nonsense is that? That's the sort of unprofessional team that Alexander Usyk has got. You know, he's sparring and he's got two other guys in the ring with him. I don't care if it's a photo shoot. Just, I'm not into all that stuff. It's not for me. You understand? Just nonsense. Nonsense. It's not to say that Usyk has been putting on, really good performances and he was playing around with two guys in the gym. The time he was playing the fool in the gym, he could be working on his footwork. He could be working on putting punches together better. He could be working on making people miss and making them pay. I'm sorry, I'm really not convinced in Alexander Usyk. Bonjour. Oh, hello. Here's an old face. Long time no see, darling. How are you? It's good to see you in the room. It's been a while. So, Alexander Usyk, good fighter, but nowhere near. He's the second coming of Evander Holyfield. Listen, Evander Holyfield would murder Alexander Usyk. Absolutely murder. Just take this a second. Cruiserweight or heavyweight. Just take this a second. Alexander Usyk almost went life and death with Derek Chisora. Think about that for a second. A guy that David Haye dismantled, took apart. A man that Dillian White knocked out. A man that Ajit Kabayel outboxed. Need I continue? A guy that Kubrat Pulev outboxed. Kubrat Pulev did a better job on Derek Chisora than Usyk did. Dillian White did a better job on Derek Chisora than Usyk did. So just think about that for a second. You can say styles make fights, but I don't know what the hell Usyk's doing. Oh, good. Thanks. Hope you're good. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm real good. I hope you're good too. So that's as much I can give you at the moment. Yeah, let's talk about another thing. The AJ giving up the belt. If AJ gives it the WBO belt, then it doesn't. It shows how much he cares about the fans. If he gives it the WBO belt, then in a way, if he does give it the WBO belt, then that gives Joyce the opportunity to fight for the WBO title. Joyce versus Usyk. If he does that, I would love to see that fight because I'm telling you, listen, I'm telling you now, right now, the day they announce that fight, I'm going down to the bookies and I'm putting money straight on Joyce because he's another one that'll go through. It might take a little longer for Joyce to do it, but he'll go through Usyk as well. And guys are too big. And guys are too big. Usyk don't hit hard enough. And those guys hit very hard, very hard. You know, um, very hard. And I think, like I've said before, Joe Joyce is a legitimate threat in the heavyweight division. I told you that before he fought Daniel Dubois. I told you he beat Daniel Dubois. You know, he's for me, he's ready. He's right there now, Joe Joyce. He's right there, right there. If he gives it the belt, then there's talk about him fighting Dillian White again or Andy Ruiz. But somebody said it's more or less set in BC Stone. Oh boy. When he gives up that WBO belt, that's because he's got more than enough money in the bank and he's swerving Usyk because of the potential challenge. If Ferry drops the belt, it's a blatant duck. Yeah, it's business. It's business. Listen, why would you duck Alexander Usyk business wise? One, Usyk cannot bring in a crowd. As good as he is, he can't bring in a crowd. And very fine, it's fine, but he can't bring in a crowd. He's not going to sell a crowd out. He's not going to hype a fight up. He'll do his little funny clownish stuff, but nah, he's not. He's not a ticket seller. Nah, forget him. Forget him. He couldn't sell out. He couldn't sell at the Bethnal Green. You're called Bethnal Green, so forget Usyk. So for business purposes, I can see why they swerved that fight. You swerve that fight. You fight Dillian White in the defense of your title. You defend your titles against Dillian White and say, you know what, I'm going to defend my fight, my belts against Dillian White because you know what, you wanted an All British showdown. We couldn't get the Fury fight, so we've got one better. We're getting Dillian White. Dillian White and me are going to go again for a second fight. The British fans would love that, and they will say, you know what, we don't mind you ducking Usyk to fight Dillian White a second time. We'd love that. We'd have that. And you know what? I would say thank you very much, Mr. Joshua. I would take that as well. Joshua versus White 2. Bear in mind, you look at Dillian White. Yeah, he's got a new team and everything, but he did still look very open in that fight. And you think to yourself, you know what? I could get myself in a tricky fight with Alexander Usyk, or I could go out and knock out a guy I've already knocked out before, who's already been knocked out by a 41-year-old in Povetkin. You know what? I got sure fights Dillian White. I can see it being an Eddie Hearn move. I can see it being the British fans falling for the okie doke because Josh will go, you know what? You go, you know what? You couldn't get the Fury fight, yeah? That fraud Fury. You couldn't get the Fury fight. You know what? But you know what? Dillian White, hats off to Dillian White. He put in a good performance against Povetkin. Let's make the Dillian White fight. Let's give the fans what they want. That's what Joshua would say. That's exactly what Joshua would. I just know the script. That's what Joshua would say. And the British fans would go, yeah. So you have Dillian White versus Anthony Joshua. That's how that would work. So then Joyce versus Usyk would go for the vacant WBO belt, and then Joyce will smash Usyk to bits, and then we'll see what happens today. Maybe we'll see Joyce versus Ruiz for the WBO belt. I don't know, but I can see that happening. If that happened, fine. I'd accept that. I'd accept that. See here. What's going on? Why would it show it? Like that? Oh, how about WBO giving out Joe Parker versus Usyk because Joyce is with Frank? White fights AJ again. Yeah, you can see it. Why doesn't Derek Chisora get a shot at the world title? AJ versus Chisora. It's going on. Forgive me, I'm not ignoring you all. I just have to read your comments out because I can't. You're not showing all. Okay, it was game, but then Daku signal. Everyone Wilder. So Fury should he was value to anything. Former cruiserweight undisputed champion. When you're undisputed cruiserweight, or if you're undisputed at one time in one division, I think you get automatically a mandatory position in the next weight division up as an undisputed. One of the joys of undisputed. There's your answer there. I don't know what's going on tonight. I can't. I'll just read the comments out because I can't. Okay, Usyk, Delboy, and Usyk Bellew were pay-per-views. Why not Usyk AJ? You. What about Huey fights Charlie Noodles Martin Ingram IBF? Did it? I don't think Joshua Fuchs as well. You mean White, right? Jo- Usyk's been mandatory longer than White. LOL. Yeah, as I said, let White, Usyk, and Joyce fight for that WBO belt. Let them beat the crap out of one another. So yeah, let them two fight over the WBO belt while Joshua goes to fight for Dillian White. So yeah, that's about it for me on this preview show. So let's wait and see what happens. Let's see if Mystic Ingram gets it right again. Uh, yeah, that's about it for this show. As always, don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments. Make sure you watch the video right to the end. I'll be back with Spence versus Pacquiao. Remember, I did an interview with Errol Spence's trainer, Derek James, back in December 2020. And at that point, he said that Pacquiao is still a very dangerous opponent. And I think Pacquiao is still very dangerous for Errol Spence, but that's just my opinion. See here. Another cracking fight would be Scott Fitzgerald on his comeback trial versus Irish number one Dennis Hogan. Remember he fought soon March? Yeah, that'd be a good fight. Do you think Pacquiao will agree to Olympic just a drug testing? Well, that's why I think Spence accepted the fight. Yeah, I think he will. I think he will. Some of that old Manny juice will go through one way or the other. There's this voice. Did you see Eddie interview? No, I don't watch Eddie interview. Sorry, what did he say this time? It was good. Watch him piss off at being shafted. Good, good. Errol is demanding it. Yeah, of course Errol demanded it, but I don't think even Errol is demanding it. I think that's what Derek James would be suggesting for Pacquiao. So Derek James would suggest that because it's that type of trainer. It's a good trainer. It's my brother as well, Derek James, to get him back on the show very soon. Right, if you're wondering why we haven't had people on the show, it's just that I'm still testing this internet out, and as soon as I'm sure that it's good, it's not going to cut out on me, I will definitely be having people back on the show. Right, I think that's about it for now for me. I'll be back a little later talking Pacquiao Spence. But for now, thank you so much for watching BWTM Sports.